I didn't set out to blow up my life with a single post, but that's what happened. If you scroll back far enough on my Instagram, you can actually see the exact moment the earthquake started. Me in a dim rooftop bar, hair tossed over one shoulder, a man's hand on my waist that isn't my boyfriend's. The caption maybe, "I like the view better from here," with a little skyline emoji. It got more likes than anything I'd posted in months. It also cost me the one person who had never treated me like a set piece. Before I tell you how the fire started, I need you to understand the room it burned down. I've always been the friend who documents things. Group dinners, coffee foam art, sunsets through fingerprints on a rideshare window. I'm good at it. I know my angles. I know which side of my face looks like an apology and which side looks like a dare. I work in brand partnerships at a lifestyle magazine, which means my job is to make everything look like a soft landing. I love the rush of posting something and watching the numbers tick up like proof that the moment happened and mattered. My boyfriend, Daniel, is not anti-internet. He's just not built for it. He's a civil engineer with hands that can explain a bridge to you without a single word. He's steady and kind and believes in timers for pasta water. He doesn't think everything needs to be shared to be real. When we met, I remember feeling like I'd finally found the quiet room in a loud house. The trouble started when I forgot to be grateful for the quiet. There's a party we go to every year on the first warm night of spring. Rooftop, rented DJ, drinks in plastic cups pretending to be glass. The crowd is a mix of my coworkers and the kind of people who orbit around my industry like satellites. Our reps, micro-influencers, the guy who owns 5 restaurants and dresses like he invented linen. Daniel came with me last year and stood like an anchor while the wind tried to blow our napkins away. This year he said he had an early site meeting the next day and he'd pick me up after if I wanted. "Come for an hour," I said more sharply than I meant. "Smile. Take a photo with me. People ask where you are when you don't come." He looked at me for a long second. "Do those people know me?" he asked gently. "They know of you," I said, and heard how ugly that sounded. He smiled the way he does when he's trying not to start an argument. "1 hour," he said. It should have been sweet. I weaponized it anyway. At the party, a photographer made his rounds and I did my thing. Hug people like you are happy to be part of their highlight reel, laugh with your teeth. Tilt your chin down when someone snaps you candidly. Daniel stood at my side and put a hand on the small of my back like he always does in crowds, a quiet signal that says I am here, you are here, we are here together. A few drinks in, my coworker, Mason, slid into our little orbit. Mason is the kind of charming that doesn't require effort. He wears a leather jacket and is always over his shoulders and refuses to call Ubers on principle. He's the guy who says, "Let me show you something," and it's a view, a weird stairwell nobody knows about. A door that opens onto a part of the roof you're technically not supposed to be on. He is also absolutely harmless if you treat him like weather. Notice him, enjoy the breeze, don't build a house under a cloud. We've always had a flirt that sits safely on the shelf labeled banter. That night, he leaned around Daniel to tell a story about someone tripping over a light stand and knocking over a tray of signature cocktails. I laughed and leaned back without thinking. His hand landed on my hip for one beat too long. Daniel's hand on my back went still. It would be a lie to say I didn't notice. It would be a bigger lie to say I didn't leave it there because I wanted a reaction. Daniel is not a jealous man. He is not possessive. He is, if anything, almost maddeningly secure, and sometimes I confuse that security with indifference. When the photographer came by, he lifted his camera and said, "You 3," and I moved automatically. Chin down, shoulders back. While Daniel stepped half a pace out of frame. It stung. Later, I made an excuse to follow Mason to the sword, off-limit staircase, because I wanted better light for a photo and because a part of me wanted a better reaction from the man I came with. Mason, true to form, knew exactly where to stand to catch the city behind us. He put his hand on my waist again, and I didn't correct him. I took the shot. I checked it. It was good. "Send it to me," Mason said. And I did, and when I came back to the main rooftop, Daniel was talking to the DJ about how he'd reinforced a footbridge near campus last year. He caught my eye and smiled like he always does when we find each other at a party, and asked if I was ready to go. We didn't fight in the car. We didn't fight when we brushed our teeth standing side by side. We didn't fight at all. He said, "I have to be up at 5," and I said, "Good luck," and he kissed my forehead, and we went to sleep. If I had put my phone down that night and left the photo in the camera roll graveyard with 100 pictures of other people's cats and my own face in bad lighting, my life would be different. I woke up at 6 to pee and did what I always do when I can't fall back asleep, scrolled. The photo sat there like a dare. I cropped it. I adjusted the highlight so my collarbone looked like a line I'd drawn on purpose. I wrote the caption fast like ripping off tape. Maybe I like the view better from here. I tagged the venue. I tagged the magazine. I did not tag or mention my boyfriend who was asleep in the next room, with an alarm set to build other people's safety. By the time Daniel left for his site visit, the post had 100 likes, and a comment from someone who matters at work. She said what she said. I knew when he texted a photo of her bar cage in a trench was satisfying. The post had spiraled. People were DMing me to ask if I was single now. An ex from college sent flame emojis. Mason replied to his own tag with the eyes. I didn't reply. I put my phone face down on my desk and told myself I could handle the line where the performance ended and the life began. The first consequence didn't arrive in my relationship. It arrived at my job. At our Monday check-in, my boss, Leila, slid her laptop toward me without a word. The brand we were pitching entered the post and asked whether the timeline matched the brand's values. Leila was not angry. Leila is never angry. She has the kind of cool that wins at poker and meetings. It's good content, she said. It is not good context. I stammered something about satire in tone, and you know how Mason is, and she said, I know how the internet is, and asked me very kindly not to make her defend my judgment again in the presence of a client. I walked out of that meeting shaky and practiced how to tell Daniel I'd been stupid. He beat me to it. When I got home, he was at the stove stirring something that smelled like garlic, making up its mind to be sweet. He kissed me low, asked about my day, and then, while he grated parmesan over a bowl like snow, said, Do you want to tell me about your post? I told him the truth, dressed up. It was a dumb joke. I wanted to look cool for work. Did it work? He asked. A fine word, I said, and then told him about the client and Leila, and how comments are a kind of drug that make you say things in a tone your real mouth would never use. He listened like he listens to everything. Straight on, no folding of arms, no sighing. It hurt, he said finally. Not because I think you did anything with him. Because you wanted people to think something happened, and you wanted them to like that idea. I was ready to scrap, to defend myself into a corner. Instead, I put my chin on my fist and said, I'm sorry. He nodded. I know you are, he said. Can you take it down? I hesitated. This is the kind of detail that makes strangers pick a side. I hesitated because I didn't want to let go of the thing that sparkled, even though it cut. It's part of a carousel now, I said weakly, as if graphics were destiny. He smiled with his mouth closed. Okay, he said softly, and we ate in silence for a minute while the sauce carried the conversation. Then he asked me about my sister's new baby, and I told him the long version because he always listens to it, and the night moved forward. The next day, Mason posted behind his seamless story of the same rooftop corner with a boomerang of him dragging his thumb across the edge of my crop top and the caption, The view is mutual. I messaged him, delete. He wrote back, lol chill, it's good for your numbers. Daniel did not mention it. He did not like it. He did not unfollow me. He did nothing at all, which somehow felt louder than any reaction he could have had. Over the next week, I tried to clean up the mess without getting my hands too dirty. I stopped posting from events that looked like the opposite of Daniel's life. I posted a photo of his hands kneading dough with a heart's caption that made me cringe even as I typed it because performative affection always does. The engagement on that was decent, but nothing like the rooftop shot. Leila sent me to a client dinner and put someone else on caption duty for optics. I put my head down and did actual work that doesn't convert easily to a square. I expected the storm to pass. I did not expect it to mutate. The mutation arrived as a DM request from a burner account with no posts and a username that looked like a cat ran across the keyboard. It contained 3 photos of me I did not know anyone else had. Me and Daniel at the grocery store in sweats. Me and Daniel arguing in a parking garage. I could tell because my hands were doing the thing they do when I'm making a point, and he was standing very still, which is how he argues. And me leaving my office with Mason 3 paces behind me, looking like we were together if you didn't understand that city sidewalks are rivers and people flow. The caption under the photo said, Story Sill. I didn't respond. I blocked. I told myself it was some kid hoping to bait me. 2 days later, a gossip blog that covers micro-celebrities and people who want to be them posted a grid of those photos with the caption, "Is she moving on?" and tagged me, Mason, the magazine, and a street-style account that has 40,000 followers and a very specific idea of what moving on should look like. The comments were a circus I did not buy tickets to. People speculating, people shipping me and Mason, people calling me goals, people calling me trash, women in my DMs telling me I can do better, men in my DMs telling me they can. Daniel said nothing. At dinner, he asked if I wanted to go to his friend's cabin next weekend, and if I preferred hiking Saturday or Sunday. I said Saturday because Sunday I like to do laundry and feel superior to my own productivity. He smiled and said okay, and I wanted to shake him and scream, "Be mad at me so I don't have to be mad at myself." On Friday, an account that always knows where the crowd is posted an invite, only thing at a new club. Leila suggested I swing by, show face, take note of the barheads, and I said yes because I like to be useful. Daniel's cabin plans stretched between us like a rubber band. "Do you want to skip the club?" he asked, careful. "We can leave Friday night and wake up in the trees." "I have to go," I said, greedy and unreasonable even in my own ears. "Work." He nodded slow. "Work," he said, as if tasked writing the word. We drove separate cars to our separate nights. The club was the kind that knows it's a club, mirrors everywhere. Bathrooms that look like photo booths, bartenders who flip bottles like a magician and have arms like a promise. I stood next to the step and repeat and smiled for the cameras I knew, then snuck to the back patio where the light was kinder. Mason appeared with 2 drinks and a smirk. "You're welcome," he said. "For what?" "The plot," he said, as if my life were something we were writing together. "I don't need a plot," I said, and handed him back the drink. "I need to keep my job." He rolled his eyes and leaned out over the railing like he wanted the city to notice his profile. "Relax," he said. "This is all good for you." "No," I said quietly. "It's good for you." I left early. I drove home with the windows down to quiet the noise in my head. I got into bed and slept badly. In the morning, I woke up to a note on the counter cabin. "Back Sunday night. I left you the good coffee." There was a line drawn in pen beneath it. A literal bridge, because he can't help himself. I stared at it and felt every choice I'd made project itself onto the wall like a bad slideshow. The crop, the caption, the delay when he asked me to take it down. Every laugh that wasn't unkind but wasn't kind either. I texted him, "I'll be up there by lunch." He didn't respond. I packed quickly, drove with the radio off, and rehearsed practicing contrition out loud with nobody to hear it. The cabin sat like a quiet thud at the end of a gravel road. I parked, saw his car, felt a stupid, hopeful leap in my chest, and then I saw him on the porch with a woman I didn't know. She was pretty, in a way that photographs poorly. Real pretty, not curated. She wore hiking boots correctly, and had a sunburned nose. They were laughing, and Daniel's head was tipped back in a way I hadn't seen in months. When he saw me, his face closed gently, like the end of a book. "This is Erin," he said, not awkward and not proud. "My coworker." She stuck out her hand. I shook it with my bones. "We came up last night," he said calmly. The storm took out a section of trail. I asked her to help me map the route. There was a universe in which this was innocent, and maybe it was this one. But the part of me that had spent 2 months controlling the narrative wanted to control this too. "Got it," I said. "I'll let you work. You can come," he said, and I heard the invitation click into place like an offer to a party you're not meant to accept. "I'm fine," I said. He nodded. "Okay. If you are looking for the moment he told me it was over, it didn't happen on that porch. It happened in a smaller way the next day. After Erin left, and we did the hike and said nothing for 4 miles because the trees were busy being more interesting than us. We got back to the cabin, and he made coffee on a stove that believed in patience, and then he sat across from me and put his hands on the table like he was about to show me a card trick. "You're not a villain," he said, "and I'm not a victim. But I don't want to be your audience anymore." "I know," I said, "because what else do you say when the person who built bridge after bridge tells you the river is tired of being crossed?" "I'm sorry." "I know," he said, "and I don't think you will be again. Not like this." He took a breath. "I can't keep trying to convince you that the quiet life we had was enough. If you want noise, you should go where the noise is." "I want you," I said, and the sentence felt like a truth and a reflex. He smiled in a way that hurt. You want me to clap, he said softly. You want me to stand just outside the frame and make your life look bigger. I don't clap like that. We didn't break up there either. We drove home in convoy. We made dinner that tasted like a ceasefire. On Tuesday, he packed 2 bags and moved into a short-term rental near his office to clear my head. And I let him because I thought I could fix it later if I posted the right thing at the right time. I posted nothing. It didn't matter. Mason posted a photo of my hand on a glass with the caption, "Cheers to new chapters," and the gossip account reposted it. My DMs filled up with congratulations I didn't earn. Daniel's sister, who has always liked me, texted, "Are you okay?" And I typed yes and then put my phone face down and cried into my laundry. Leela pulled me off 2 accounts because some clients are sensitive. My rent came due and a brand delayed payment, and I stood in the kitchen holding a bill and realized how many of my numbers were just people filling time at their desks. The quiet that used to be my favorite thing about Daniel's life became the only thing I wanted, and it was the one thing I couldn't get back by asking for it. Weeks became months. Daniel didn't unfollow me. He just stopped being a part of the story. He didn't watch my stories, didn't like photos, didn't text even when my sister's baby was born and I posted a picture of a foot that looked exactly like a dumpling. I saw him once across the street fair with Aaron, who was eating a corn on the cob with frightening efficiency. He waved like we used to share a class. I waved back like I was the exchange student who arrived halfway through the semester and never caught up. 5 months after the rooftop photo, I discovered the kind of silence I had been pretending to love. Numbers fell because numbers always fall when you stop feeding them. Mason moved on to a woman who believes men like him can be projects. Leela told me I was excellent at the part of my job that isn't public and asked if I wanted to pivot to brand strategy full-time. I said yes because I needed to build something not designed to be scrolled past. Sometimes I would lie awake with my phone face down and feel the phantom vibration and reach for it and imagine that it was Daniel telling me he missed the way we used to take the same route to the grocery store every week and buy the good olives only when they were on sale. The message never came. What came 9 months after the rooftop party was a photo texted by Daniel's sister. Thought you should hear from family, not online, and a picture of Daniel and Aaron on a hiking trail in clothes that made sense on their bodies, holding hands, smiling so hard it must have hurt the day after. I did not throw my phone. I did not write a speech in my head about timing and betrayal and the way generosity feels like a weapon when you're not getting any. I stood up, walked to the sink, drank water, and then blocked the gossip account because I didn't want to see strangers congratulating him or me anymore. 1 year to the day after the rooftop post, the bar hosted the same party. The same DJ, the same vases of flowers that pretend to be wild but are meticulously curated, the same photographer with a new camera strap. I went because I had to for work, and because I wanted to see how it felt to be in the spot where I had kicked the first domino. Mason was there with a new jacket and the same laugh. He lifted his chin at me from across the room like we were conspirators. I nodded once and then looked past him. I stood in the corner where the light is kindest and did not take a photo. I went home before midnight. In the morning, I made toast like an adult and paid rent and watered a plant that has forgiven me 4 times. I still post, but less. I post coffee, sometimes because it is a real thing I drink and not a symbol. I post my sister's baby because she looks like a tiny congresswoman, and I would love for her. I post bridges sometimes when I pass Daniel's worksite because it makes me feel like I understand the kind of thinking he does. I don't tag anyone. I don't write captions that sound like a dare. I would love to say that I learned a clean lesson like don't use jealousy as content, because obviously, the lesson is more tangled. It's this: when you stand in a room and announce your life to strangers, the person who loves you might hear it like a loudspeaker pointed away from him. When you choose the version of a moment that clicks better, you might be choosing a version of yourself that can't hold the life you had. And when a man like Daniel says nothing while you try to make him into a character in your feed, it doesn't mean he didn't notice. It means he isn't auditioning. He can stop showing up. He did. People still ask sometimes if I'm single, and I say yes, by choice, because it makes me feel powerful to pretend I made this call. The truth is, I made 100 little calls that added up to a number I didn't intend to dial. I pressed post when I should have pressed save. I wanted clapping. He wanted quiet. He found it. I am learning how to make it for myself without confusing silence for loneliness. If you scroll far enough back in my feed, the rooftop photo is still there. I didn't take it down eventually, not because I'm proud, but because I want the reminder. It has fewer likes than it did that first week because the algorithm forgot me. And I can't explain to you how comforting that is. Sometimes I think about sending Daniel a photo of a bridge with no caption and letting him read the apology between the beams. I don't. He doesn't need my words to do his job. He never did. What he needed was a partner who understood the difference between being seen and being known. I'm not her. Not then. Maybe not yet. The night the party happened again, and I went home before midnight. I lay in bed in the dark and waited for the old itch. It didn't come. I woke up to sunlight like a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence I finally didn't need to finish for other people. I made coffee. I put my phone down. I walked to the river and watched the water move under a bridge someone like Daniel designed, steady and unbothered by the amount of attention it's getting. And for the first time since the caption that cracked my life, I felt it. The quiet room in the loud house. And I stayed.